The rain came down in sheets that night, turning the alley behind Giuseppe's into a river of garbage and regret. I should have been home an hour ago, but Marco had called in sick again, 3rd time this month, and someone had to close the kitchen. My feet ached in these cheap sneakers, the ones with the sole coming loose that squeaked against the wet pavement. The smell of rotting vegetables from the dumpster mixed with something else, something metallic that made my stomach turn. I almost didn't see him. He was slumped against the brick wall, half hidden in the shadows between the dumpster and the back door of the closed pawn shop. Dark suit, expensive by the look of it, now ruined with mud and something darker spreading across his chest. His head was tilted back, rain washing over a face that could have been carved from marble, sharp jaw, straight nose, lips pressed together in what might have been pain or concentration, but it was his eyes that stopped me cold. Even in the dim light from the street lamp, they were striking, dark, intense, and fixed on something in his arms. A baby, wrapped in a white blanket that was now spotted with rain and blood. A tiny infant no more than a few months old, nestled against his chest. The man's hand, large, with scarred knuckles, was pressed protectively over the child, shielding it from the rain with his body. Oh my God. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. His eyes snapped to mine, and I felt the impact like a physical thing. Even wounded, possibly dying, there was something predatory in that gaze. Something that said he was still the most dangerous thing in this alley, rain and blood, and baby notwithstanding. Help. His voice was rough, accented. Italian, I thought. Please. I should have run. Should have called 911 and kept walking. I had $17 in my pocket. A phone with a cracked screen, and absolutely no business getting involved in whatever this was. But the baby made a small sound, a whimper that cracked something open in my chest. You're shot. Brilliant observation, Emma. Really helpful. The baby. He shifted slightly, and I saw him wince. Not mine. They'll come back. He coughed, and fresh blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Please, take her somewhere safe. We need to call an ambulance. The police. No police. The words came out sharp, commanding, and I took an involuntary step back. Then his expression shifted, became almost pleading. Please. I'm begging you. The baby isn't safe. They want... Another cough. They want to hurt her. To get to me. This was insane. Completely insane. I was a 23-year-old waitress who lived in a studio apartment with a hot plate and a bathroom I shared with 2 other tenants. I could barely take care of myself. What did I know about babies? About men who got shot in alleys while protecting infants? But those eyes. God, those eyes were boring into mine with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. And the baby. She couldn't have been more than 3 months old, with a tiny fist pressed against the man's chest, oblivious to the danger, to the blood, to everything except the warmth of the body holding her. I can't, I stammered. You can. He said it with such certainty, such absolute conviction, that I almost believed him. Please, I saw you, before. Through the restaurant window. You were kind to an old woman who couldn't pay. You gave her food from your own wages. He'd been watching me? When? Why? That doesn't mean I can... It means everything. He was fading. I could see it in the way his grip on the baby was loosening, the way his eyelids were starting to droop. It means you have a good heart. That's all she needs right now. A good heart, and somewhere warm. The baby whimpered again, and I found myself moving forward without deciding to. My knees hit the wet pavement, soaking through my jeans instantly. Up close, he was even more striking, and more terrifying. There was blood everywhere, dark against the white shirt under his suit jacket. But his hold on the baby was gentle, protective, even as his own life was clearly draining away. What's her name? I don't know why I asked. Maybe to make this real, to ground myself in something concrete. Sophia. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. It means wisdom. She'll need it. And yours? He hesitated, and I saw calculation flash through those dark eyes, even clouded with pain. Dante. My name is Dante. I reached for the baby, and his hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength. His skin was cold, but his grip was iron. Promise me. Promise you'll keep her safe until I can... He broke off, coughing again. Until my people can find you. They will find you. I swear it. Just keep her safe until then. Your people? Warning bells were ringing in my head, loud and insistent. Promise me, Emma. How do you know my... I know many things. His grip tightened, almost painful now. I know you work doubles every Thursday to send money to your sister in Ohio. I know you eat ramen 4 nights a week to make rent. I know you're kind and brave and exactly who I need right now, so promise me. On whatever you hold sacred, promise me you'll protect her. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong, but the baby, Sophia, was starting to fuss, and the man, Dante, was losing consciousness. I could see it in the way his eyes were glazing over, the way his breathing was becoming shallow. I promise, I whispered, and hated myself for it. His grip relaxed immediately. Thank you. There's a phone, in my jacket, inside pocket. Call the number marked V. Tell them... He struggled to focus. Tell them the eagle has fallen. They'll understand. They'll come for Sophia. And for you. For me? But he was already unconscious, his head lolling to the side. I carefully extracted Sophia from his arms, and she immediately began to wail. The sound was shockingly loud in the quiet alley, and panic clawed at my throat. Someone would hear. Someone would come. And I was kneeling in the rain next to a man who'd been shot, holding a baby that wasn't mine. With blood on my hands and absolutely no idea what I'd just agreed to, I reached into his jacket with trembling fingers, feeling wrong about touching him but needing that phone. The fabric was wet and warm with blood, and I had to fight down nausea as I found the inside pocket. The phone was there, sleek and expensive, protected by a waterproof case. Of course it was. Everything about this man screamed money, even bleeding out in an alley, but there was something else in the pocket. My fingers brushed against it as I pulled out the phone. Cold, hard metal, a gun. This man had a gun. Sophia's wails intensified, and I made a decision I knew I'd probably regret. I grabbed the phone, left the gun, and stood up on shaking legs. Dante was breathing, barely, his chest rising and falling in shallow movements. I should stay, should wait with him. But the baby needed warmth, needed to be checked over, needed things I couldn't provide here in a filthy alley in the rain. I looked down at him one more time, at that striking face now slack with unconsciousness, at the expensive suit and the scarred knuckles and the blood pooling around him, mixing with rainwater and streaming toward the gutter. He looked like a fallen angel, beautiful and terrible, and completely beyond my understanding. I'm sorry, I whispered, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. For leaving him? For taking the baby? For getting involved in the first place? Sophia screamed against my chest, and I turned away, tucking her inside my jacket as best I could to shield her from the rain. My feet carried me toward the mouth of the alley, toward the street where my ancient Honda waited, toward a decision I couldn't take back. I didn't look behind me. Couldn't. If I looked back, I might change my mind. Might go back and wait with him until someone came. But his words echoed in my head. They'll come back. And suddenly the alley felt like a trap, the shadows deeper and more menacing than before. The phone was heavy in my hand, a weight that had nothing to do with its actual mass. Call the number marked V, he'd said. Tell them the eagle has fallen. What did that mean? Who was V? And what had I just promised to protect this baby from? Sophia's cries had subsided to whimpers, and I could feel her tiny body shaking, from cold, or fear, or both. My car was just ahead, parked under the broken streetlight where I always left it because that spot was free. The rain was letting up slightly, but we were both soaked through. I fumbled with my keys, nearly dropping them twice before I managed to unlock the door. The interior smelled like old French fries and the vanilla air freshener I'd bought at the dollar store. I had no car seat, no baby supplies, nothing that a responsible adult taking custody of an infant should have. What was I thinking? But as I settled into the driver's seat, cradling Sophia against me, I felt her tiny hand curl around my finger. Her grip was surprisingly strong. And when I looked down, she was staring up at me with dark eyes, the same intense darkness as Dante's. The same unsettling intelligence that seemed to see right through me. "It's okay," I murmured, knowing it was a lie. Nothing about this was okay. We're going to be okay. The phone buzzed in my hand and I nearly threw it. The screen lit up with a notification. One missed call from V. Then, as I watched, it began to ring. My thumb hovered over the answer button. This was it. The moment where I could still back out, could drive to a hospital and hand Sophia over to people who actually knew what they were doing, could wash my hands of this whole insane situation. But I remembered the fear in Dante's eyes when he'd said, "They want to hurt her." The desperate strength in his grip when he'd made me promise, the blood spreading across his chest. Dark and endless in the rain, I answered the call. "Who is this?" The voice was male, cold, with the same Italian accent as Dante's but harder, more threatening. "Where is Dante? Where's the baby?" "The eagle has fallen," I said, my voice shaking. "He told me to call you, to tell you that." The silence on the other end was absolute, suffocating. Then, "Where?" "The alley, behind Giuseppe's restaurant on 5th Street. He's hurt badly, shot. He needs help." "And Sophia?" "With me. Safe. He asked me to keep her safe until your people could find me." Another pause, and I could hear muffled voices in the background. Rapid Italian that I couldn't understand. Then the voice came back, sharp and commanding. "Listen carefully. Drive to the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart. Park in the back lot, near the delivery entrance. Someone will meet you there in 20 minutes. Do not deviate. Do not stop. Do not call anyone else. Do you understand?" "Yes, but 20 minutes. If you're not there, if anything happens to that baby, you will wish you'd never been born." The line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone, feeling Sophia's warmth against my chest, and the cold reality of what I'd gotten myself into settling over me like a shroud. The cathedral was across town, maybe 15 minutes in good traffic. I could make it. I should make it. But as I started the car, as the engine coughed to life and the windshield wipers began their rhythmic sweep, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just stepped off a cliff, that the ground was rushing up to meet me, and there was no going back. Sophia made a small sound, almost content now that she was warm and dry. I glanced down at her, at this tiny person I'd promised to protect, and felt something fierce and protective bloom in my chest. Whatever was coming, whatever I'd gotten myself into, I wouldn't let anyone hurt her, not while I still had breath in my body. The rain started again as I pulled onto the street, harder than before, and in my rearview mirror, I could just barely see the mouth of the alley where I'd left Dante, where he might already be dead, where my old life had ended, and this new, terrifying one had begun. The cathedral loomed against the night sky like a Gothic sentinel, all pointed spires and dark stone that seemed to swallow what little light the street lamps provided. I'd driven past it 100 times, maybe more, but I'd never actually been inside. Religion and I had parted ways around the same time my mother decided that vodka was more reliable than prayer. The back lot was nearly empty, just a white van near the delivery entrance and my pathetic Honda sputtering to a stop under a dying oak tree. Sophia had fallen asleep against my chest, her breathing soft and even, blissfully unaware that we were about to meet people who had threatened my life with the casual ease of someone ordering coffee. I'd made it in 18 minutes, 2 minutes to spare before whatever was coming arrived. The phone buzzed again. A text this time from V. "Stay in the car." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to drive away, to take Sophia to a police station or a hospital or literally anywhere but here. But Dante's words kept echoing in my head. They want to hurt her, and the fear in his eyes had been real. Whatever he'd been protecting her from, it was worse than mysterious men making threats over the phone. Headlights cut through the darkness, and a black SUV pulled into the lot with predatory smoothness. Not the white van, something else entirely. The windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside, and when it parked directly in front of my car, blocking any chance of escape, my heart started hammering against my ribs. The driver's door opened first. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. He didn't look at me, just scanned the parking lot with the practiced efficiency of someone trained to spot threats. His hand rested casually at his hip, where I was certain a weapon was holstered. The back door opened, and another man emerged. He was older than Dante, maybe late 30s, with silver threading through dark hair slicked back from a face that could have been handsome if it wasn't so hard. Same Italian features, same expensive suit, but where Dante had seemed dangerous in an elegant way, this man radiated controlled violence. He moved like a panther, all coiled energy and predatory grace. This had to be V. He walked to my car, and the driver moved with him, staying slightly behind and to the left. Protection detail. I'd seen enough movies to recognize it, but seeing it in real life was different, more threatening, more real. V tapped on my window with one knuckle, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. Sophia stirred but didn't wake. With trembling fingers, I rolled down the window, and cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of expensive cologne and something darker underneath, gunpowder maybe, or fear. Emma. He said my name like he'd known me for years, and it sent chills down my spine. Show me the baby. I adjusted Sophia in my arms so he could see her face. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe, or recognition. He studied her for a long moment. Then his gaze shifted to me, and I felt pinned by it, examined and weighed and found wanting. Dante is alive, he said, and my chest loosened slightly. Barely. You saved his life by calling when you did. I didn't, I just did what he asked. Exactly. V straightened, glancing around the parking lot again. Get out. You're coming with us. What? No. He said I should keep her safe until you came. You're here now. Take her. It's not that simple. His voice was patient, but there was steel underneath. Sophia's father is dead, murdered 3 hours ago. The people who did it want her dead too. They have eyes everywhere. Police, hospitals, social services. If we take her openly, they'll know within the hour. But you? He gestured at my beat-up car, my discount store clothes still damp from the rain. You're nobody. No connections, no record, nothing that would ping their radar. I can't just... I have a job, a life. A job where you work 50 hours a week for minimum wage and tips that barely cover your sister's medical bills. He said it without judgment, just stating facts, but it still stung. A life in a 4th-floor walk-up with water damage and a landlord who's 3 months from eviction proceedings? That life? How did he know all this? The question must have shown on my face because he smiled, cold and mirthless. Dante doesn't do anything without research, Emma. He's been watching you for 2 weeks, ever since his brother, Sophia's father, mentioned he'd gotten a girl pregnant, ever since Lorenzo betrayed the family and put everyone in danger. I don't understand any of this. You don't need to. You just need to do what Dante asked. Keep Sophia safe. And right now, the safest place for her is with you, somewhere they won't think to look. For how long? Until we eliminate the threat. He said it so casually, like he was discussing grocery shopping instead of murder. A few days, maybe a week. A week. 7 days of being responsible for a baby I didn't know how to care for, hiding from people who wanted her dead, living in fear that every knock on the door might be my last. And if I say no? V leaned down, bracing his hands on the window frame, and when he spoke, his voice was soft and terrifying. Then Sophia dies. And Dante, who took 3 bullets protecting her, who's currently in surgery with a collapsed lung and internal bleeding, will have sacrificed everything for nothing. Is that what you want? Tears burned behind my eyes, but I blinked them back. I wouldn't cry in front of this man, wouldn't show weakness. What do I need to do? His expression softened slightly, the first hint of approval I'd seen. Smart girl. Marco will give you everything you need. Formula, diapers, clothes, money. You'll stay in your apartment. Go to work. Act normal. But you keep your phone on you at all times, and if you see anything suspicious, anyone watching, you call me immediately. He pulled a card from his jacket and handed it through the window. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. Valentino Rossi, import-export consultant. A phone number, Nothing else. That's my personal line. It's always on. Always answered. What about Dante? Can I know how he's doing? Something flickered across Valentino's face, too quick to read. Why do you care? Because he trusted me. Because he's Sophia's uncle, and she deserves to know he's alive. He's her uncle, Valentino confirmed. And he's alive because you didn't panic. Because you did exactly what needed to be done. He paused, studying me again with that unnerving intensity. He was right about you. You have a good heart. That's rare in our world. Your world? What exactly is your world? The kind where asking too many questions can get you killed. He straightened. Marco will follow you home. Don't be alarmed. He's there for your protection. The driver had already returned to the SUV, and now it pulled around, parking where it could watch my car. I looked down at Sophia, still sleeping peacefully, oblivious to the danger, to the way her tiny existence had just completely derailed my life. One more thing, Valentino said, and when I looked up, his expression was grave. Dante isn't just Sophia's uncle. He's the head of our organization, the Moretti family. Do you know what that means? I swallowed hard. Mafia. Yes. Which means the people hunting Sophia aren't just criminals, they're our rivals. The Calabrese family, and they don't leave witnesses. He let that sink in. You're in this now, Emma, whether you like it or not. The moment you picked up that baby, you became part of this war. Your best chance of survival is to do exactly what I tell you when I tell you. Understand? I nodded, unable to speak past the fear clogging my throat. Good. Now go home. Feed Sophia. Try to sleep. Marco will be outside if you need anything. And Emma? He waited until I met his eyes. Thank you for saving my brother's life. Brother. Dante and Valentino were brothers, and Sophia's father, Lorenzo, had been too. A family business, passed down through blood and violence and secrets I couldn't begin to imagine. I rolled up the window and started the car, my hands still shaking. The SUV fell in behind me as I pulled out of the lot, a dark shadow that followed me through empty streets slick with rain. Every turn I made, it matched. Every stoplight, it waited. Marco, my protection or my jailer, I wasn't sure which. My apartment building looked shabbier than usual when I pulled up, the brick facade water-stained and crumbling, the front door hanging slightly crooked on its hinges. Home, sweet home. The SUV parked across the street, and I saw Marco settle in, clearly prepared for a long night, getting Sophia up 4 flights of stairs while carrying a phone, keys, and my bag should have been Olympic sport. She woke up halfway and started crying. Really crying. The kind that echoed in the stairwell and probably woke Mrs. Chen on the 2nd floor. By the time I got my door open, I was sweating despite the cold, and Sophia was screaming like I was murdering her. Okay, shh, please, I begged, kicking the door shut behind me. I'm trying, I promise. My apartment looked even more pathetic than usual through the eyes of someone holding a baby. The single room that served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen. The hot plate on the counter next to a microwave that only worked on one setting. The futon that doubled as my bed and couch. The tiny bathroom with its perpetually dripping faucet. This was where I was supposed to keep a baby safe. Sophia's cries escalated, and panic set in. What did babies need? Food, right? But I didn't have formula. Valentino had said Marco would bring supplies. But when? How long could a baby go without eating? A knock on the door made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Marco, holding 2 large bags. I opened the door with the chain still attached. How did you get up here so fast? I'm fast. He shoved the bags toward the gap. Formula's already mixed in the bottles, just warm it up. Diapers, wipes, clothes, everything else you need. There's also $5,000 cash in the side pocket, for expenses. $5,000. I'd never had that much money in my life. Thank you. He grunted and turned away, already heading back down the stairs. The door across the hall cracked open. Mrs. Patterson, naturally, and I caught a glimpse of her disapproving face before I shut my door and locked all 3 locks. Sophia was still crying, and now I was crying too, overwhelmed and terrified and completely out of my depth. But I had bottles. I had diapers. I had instructions on the formula container. I could do this. I had to do this. 20 minutes later, Sophia was fed, changed, and sleeping in a nest of blankets on my futon while I sat on the floor beside her, watching her chest rise and fall. She was beautiful, I realized. Delicate features, dark wisps of hair, impossibly long eyelashes. Completely innocent and completely in danger. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "She secure?" I typed back, "Yes, sleeping." The response came immediately. "Good, rest. Tomorrow will be harder." I should have asked who was texting, Valentino, someone else, but exhaustion was pulling at me and my eyes kept drifting shut. I'd been awake for almost 20 hours and my body was done, but every time I started to doze off, I'd jerk awake, certain I'd heard something. Footsteps in the hall. A car engine outside. Sophia stirring. By the time weak sunlight filtered through my thin curtains, I'd maybe slept an hour. Total. Sophia woke up crying at 6 a.m., hungry again. I stumbled through feeding her, changing her, trying to remember everything my sister had told me about her kids, support the head, test the bottle temperature, burp her after eating. It felt like performing surgery blindfolded. I was supposed to work the morning shift at Giuseppe's, but I called in sick, inventing a stomach bug that Tony, my manager, clearly didn't believe. Whatever. I had bigger problems than Tony's skepticism. The day crawled by in a haze of feeding schedules and diaper changes and trying to keep Sophia quiet so Mrs. Patterson wouldn't complain. I checked my phone obsessively, but there were no updates about Dante. No news about the threat. Nothing except the weight of Sophia in my arms and the knowledge that somewhere out there, people wanted her dead. Around 3 p.m., my phone rang. "Valentino. How is she?" "Fine. Eating, sleeping, crying a lot, but I think that's normal. And you?" "Terrified," I admitted. "I don't know what I'm doing." "You're doing exactly what you need to do. Keeping her alive." A pause. "Dante's awake. He's asking about Sophia, about you." My heart did something complicated in my chest. "He's okay?" "He will be. He wants to see you both. But it's too dangerous right now. The Calabrese family has people watching the hospital. We'll move him tonight to somewhere more secure." "What about Sophia? How long do I need to?" "We're working on it. These things take time." "I don't have time. I have bills, a job. We'll handle your bills. Your rent is paid through next month, and Tony has been convinced that you need time off for a family emergency. How do you—" "Never mind." Of course they'd handled everything. These people probably had Tony's entire life history filed away somewhere. What happens if they find us? Marco won't let that happen. But Emma? His voice turned serious. "If something does go wrong, if someone comes for Sophia, you run. You don't try to be a hero. You take her and you run and you call me. Promise me." "I promise." After he hung up, I looked down at Sophia, who was watching me with those intense dark eyes. Dante's eyes. She'd wrapped her tiny fingers around my thumb again, holding on like I was her lifeline. Like she trusted me completely. And sitting there, in my shabby apartment with its water-stained ceiling and perpetual smell of mildew, I felt something shift inside me. Something fierce and protective and absolutely terrifying in its intensity. I'd promised Dante I'd keep her safe. I'd promised Valentino I'd run if danger came. But looking at Sophia, feeling her warmth and her trust, I knew the truth. If someone came for her, I wouldn't run. I'd fight. Even if it killed me. 3 days passed in a blur of sleepless nights and constant vigilance. Sophia had colic, or at least that's what I thought it was, based on frantic internet searches at 2 a.m., while she screamed inconsolably. The walls in my building were paper thin, and I kept expecting someone to call the police about the noise, but nobody did. Maybe they were too scared of Marco, who sat in his SUV like a permanent fixture, changing shifts with another man every 12 hours. I'd learned to recognize the patterns of my building. Mrs. Chen's shuffle at 6 a.m. when she went for her morning walk. The couple on the 3rd floor who fought every night around 9. The way the pipes groaned when anyone used hot water. I memorized the cars that parked on the street. the people who walked by, looking for anything out of place, anything that might signal danger. Valentino called twice a day, always brief. Dante was recovering. The threat assessment was ongoing. Stay vigilant. Stay hidden. I didn't ask when I could give Sophia back. Part of me didn't want to know. On the fourth morning, everything changed. I was heating a bottle when my phone rang. Not Valentino's number, but one I didn't recognize. My thumb hovered over the decline button, but something made me answer. Emma? The voice was rough, weaker than I remembered, but unmistakable. Dante. My breath caught. You're awake. I've been awake. They just finally left me alone long enough to call. A pause, and I heard pain in his breathing. How is she? How is Sophia? She's perfect. Eating well, sleeping. Well, not sleeping great, but I think that's normal. I glanced at her, nestled in her makeshift bed on the futon. She's safe. Because of you. His voice dropped lower, intimate somehow despite the obvious pain. Valentino told me what you've done, how you've cared for her. I owe you everything, Emma. You don't owe me anything. I couldn't leave her. Or you. Most people would have. There was something in his tone, a bitterness that spoke of betrayal and disappointment. Most people would have called the police and walked away. But you stayed. You kept your promise. The way he said it, like my promise had meant something, had weight and value, made my chest tight. Where are you? Valentino said you were being moved. Somewhere safe. Somewhere the Calabresi family can't reach. Background noise. Voices speaking rapid Italian. I can't tell you more than that. Not yet. When will this be over? Soon. We're close to finding Lorenzo's killer. Once we handle the threat, Sophia will be safe. You'll be safe. A pause. I need to see you both, to thank you properly. You don't need to. I do. The intensity was back, that commanding tone that made it impossible to argue. When this is over, when it's safe, I need to see you. To look you in the eyes and thank you for saving my family. His family. Sophia was his family, his blood, and I was just a stranger who'd stumbled into their war. I should go, I said, hating how my voice shook. Sophia needs to eat. Emma. He said my name like a prayer. Be careful. Trust Marco, trust Valentino, but trust your instincts too. If something feels wrong, it probably is. He hung up before I could respond, and I stood there holding the phone, feeling the ghost of his voice in my ear. There was something about him, something that pulled at me even through phone lines and distance. Maybe it was the memory of him in that alley, bleeding and broken but still protecting Sophia. Maybe it was the way he'd looked at me, like he could see past my cheap clothes and tired face to something worth saving. Or maybe I was just losing my mind from sleep deprivation. Sophia started fussing, and I pushed thoughts of Dante aside to focus on what mattered, keeping her fed, dry, and alive. The bottle was ready, and I settled onto the futon with her, watching her latch on with single-minded intensity. She was getting bigger already, I realized. Filling out, growing stronger. In just 4 days, she'd become the center of my world. My phone buzzed with a text. Marco. Valentino coming up, 2 minutes. I barely had time to pull on a clean shirt, relatively clean anyway, before the knock came. Through the peephole, I saw Valentino, alone this time, looking somehow even more intimidating in the cramped hallway. I opened the door, and he stepped inside, his gaze immediately finding Sophia. His expression softened, just slightly, but enough to make him seem almost human. She looks good, healthy. She is, I think. I mean, I'm not exactly an expert. You're doing better than an expert would. He moved to the window, checking the street below with practiced efficiency. We have a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? The Calabresi family knows Sophia is alive. They don't know where, but they're looking. We intercepted communications this morning. They've put a price on her head. $500,000 to whoever brings her in. $500,000. I looked down at the tiny baby in my arms, trying to comprehend that kind of money attached to her life. To her death. What do? We move you, Tonight, somewhere they won't think to look. He turned from the window and his expression was grave. I have a property outside the city. Rural, isolated. We can keep you both there until this is finished. For how long? However long it takes. I can't just disappear. I have a sister who depends on me. Bills that need all handled. Your sister received a money order yesterday covering 3 months of her expenses. Your bills are paid. Your landlord thinks you're visiting family in Ohio. He said it matter-of-factly, like rearranging someone's entire life was routine. Everything is handled, Emma. All you need to do is stay alive. The casual way he said it, stay alive, sent chills down my spine. What if I say no? Then you die. Sophia dies. And Dante... He paused, something flickering across his face. Dante will never forgive himself. He's already blaming himself for getting you involved, for putting you in danger. He didn't put me in danger. I chose to help, which is why he's even more determined to keep you safe. Valentino moved closer, and I resisted the urge to step back. My brother doesn't trust easily, Emma, doesn't let people close. But you, he talks about you constantly, asks about you every time I call. You saved his life, saved his niece, and now you're under his protection. Whether you want it or not. Under his protection. It sounded romantic almost, until I remembered what that meant. The Mafia, violence, a world where $500,000 could be put on a baby's head like it was nothing. When do we leave? Tonight. Pack light, clothes for a week, essentials. We'll provide everything else. After he left, I stood in the middle of my apartment, looking at the life I was about to abandon. The futon with its broken spring, the hot plate with its single working burner, the window that never quite closed, letting in drafts and city noise. It wasn't much, but it was mine. My safe space. My refuge from a world that had never been particularly kind. Now I was leaving it behind for something completely unknown. I packed mechanically. Clothes, toiletries, my phone charger, the only photo I had of my sister and her kids. Everything fit in one small duffel bag, which said something depressing about my life. Sophia's supplies took up twice as much space. Marco came for us at midnight, when the building was quiet and the street empty except for his SUV. He took my bag without a word, and I followed him down 4 flights of stairs with Sophia bundled against my chest, every shadow making my heart race. The drive took 2 hours, heading north through darkness and increasingly rural landscape. Sophia slept the entire way, and I envied her peaceful oblivion. Marco didn't speak, didn't even turn on the radio, just drove with focused intensity through winding roads that became progressively narrower and less maintained. Finally, we turned onto a private drive, gravel crunching under the tires. Trees pressed in on both sides, dense and dark, until we emerged into a clearing. A house stood there, not a mansion, but substantial. 2 stories, stone and timber construction, lights glowing warm from the windows, isolated and secure. "Welcome to your new home," Marco said, the first words he'd spoken the entire drive. Another man was waiting by the front door, younger, maybe mid-20s, with the same watchful intensity as Marco. Protection detail. How many people did Valentino have working for him? Inside, the house was surprisingly comfortable, furnished in a way that suggested someone actually lived here, not just a safe house. Leather furniture, thick rugs, a kitchen that made my hot plate look even more pathetic by comparison. Upstairs, second door on the left, the younger man said. "Everything you need should be there. There's a crib for the baby, formula in the fridge, diapers in the closet." Of course there was. These people thought of everything. The bedroom was spacious, with a large bed, an attached bathroom, and, as promised, a crib already set up near the window. Someone had even put sheets in it, soft and new. I laid Sophia down gently, and she stirred but didn't wake, exhausted from the drive. I should have been exhausted too, but adrenaline was still coursing through my system. I moved to the window and looked out at darkness broken only by security lights positioned around the property. Where was I? How far from the city? How long would I be here? A knock on the door made me jump. "It's Marco. Can I come in?" Yes, he entered holding a phone, not my regular phone, something different. "This is for you. Secure line, can't be traced. Dante's number is already programmed in. So is mine and Valentino's." "Dante?" My heart did that complicated thing again. Why would I need to call Dante? Because he insisted. Marco's expression was carefully neutral. Said you might have questions, might need reassurance, might need to hear that this will end. Will it? End? Eventually. Everything does. He set the phone on the dresser. There's food in the kitchen. Help yourself to anything. Don't go outside without one of us. Don't open the door for anyone except me, Valentino, or... He paused. Or Dante, if he comes. He's coming here? Maybe. When he's strong enough. When it's safe. Marco moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, you're doing good. Real good. Sophia's lucky to have you. After he left, I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the new phone like it might bite me. Dante's number was there, saved simply as D. My thumb hovered over it. It was almost 2 a.m. He was probably sleeping, recovering from surgery. But then I thought about his voice on the phone earlier, the pain and determination mixed together, the way he'd said my name. I called. He answered on the first ring like he'd been waiting. Emma. I'm at the house. We're safe. Good. Relief flooded his voice, palpable even through the phone. Valentino said you didn't argue, that you understood. I understood that Sophia's life is worth more than my apartment. Your life is worth more than your apartment, too. He said it fiercely, and I heard rustling, like he was adjusting position. I need you to understand something, Emma. You're not just protecting Sophia anymore. You're under my protection, which means anyone who wants to hurt you has to go through me first. You're recovering from being shot, multiple times, which just means I'm motivated to heal quickly. A pause, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer. I'm coming to see you, as soon as I can move without passing out. I need to see for myself that you're both okay. You don't have to. Yes, I do. That commanding tone again, brooking no argument. You saved my life, Emma. You saved my niece. You gave up everything. Your home, your job, your freedom, to keep a promise to a stranger bleeding in an alley. That deserves more than a phone call. I didn't do it for thanks. I know. Which makes it even more important that I give them. He exhaled slowly, painfully. Get some rest. You'll need it. And Emma? Thank you. For everything. He hung up before I could respond, and I sat there in the darkness, listening to Sophia's soft breathing from the crib, feeling the weight of his gratitude settle over me like a blanket. I should have been scared. Should have been planning my escape, figuring out how to get back to my normal life. But as I finally crawled into bed, as exhaustion pulled me toward sleep, all I could think about was Dante's voice saying my name, the promise that he was coming. The strange, terrifying feeling that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, even if it might kill me. 5 days at the house, and I was starting to understand what a gilded cage felt like. Beautiful surroundings, every comfort provided, but the walls were still walls. The windows were bulletproof. I'd learned that from Marco on day 2. And the property line was monitored by cameras I couldn't see, but knew were there. Safety and imprisonment looked remarkably similar from the inside. Sophia was thriving, though. She'd started smiling, real smiles, not just gas, and the sound of her laugh was the only thing that kept me from climbing the walls. I'd established routines, feeding every 3 hours, tummy time in the morning, walks around the property with Marco shadowing us like a well-dressed ghost. The other guard's name was Luca, and he was marginally more talkative than Marco. He'd told me about his own daughter, 3 years old, who thought her daddy worked in security. Not technically a lie, I supposed. He'd also warned me that Dante was coming today. Boss wants the house perfect, Luca had said that morning, and I'd watched through the window as he and Marco swept the grounds, checked the perimeter, did everything except roll out a red carpet. I told myself the nervous flutter in my stomach was about meeting a Mafia boss properly, not about seeing Dante again. Told myself I wasn't checking my reflection in every reflective surface, or that I hadn't changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a sweater that didn't look like I'd slept in it. The lies we tell ourselves to maintain sanity. Around 3 p.m., I heard the crunch of gravel that meant someone was coming up the drive. My heart started racing immediately, and I picked up Sophia, for comfort, or as a shield, I wasn't sure. Through the window, I watched a black Mercedes pull up, far more luxurious than Marco's SUV. The back door opened, and Dante emerged. Even from a distance, even moving carefully like his injuries still pained him, he was striking. Dark suit, perfectly tailored, white shirt open at the collar. His hair was slightly longer than I remembered, curling at the nape of his neck. He moved with the same predatory grace as Valentino, but there was something else there too, a barely contained intensity that made the air feel charged even through bulletproof glass. He spoke briefly with Marco, then turned toward the house. Even from here, I could see the focus in his expression, the determination. He was coming to see Sophia, to see me. I forced myself to breathe normally as I heard the front door open, voices in the hallway. Then footsteps on the stairs, measured and purposeful. A knock on my bedroom door. "Come in," I managed, hating how breathless I sounded. The door opened, and Dante filled the doorway, up close, in good light and without blood and rain obscuring him. He was devastating. Those dark eyes found mine immediately, and the impact was physical. A punch to the chest that left me struggling for air. Emma. He said my name like he'd been waiting weeks to say it out loud. Then his gaze shifted to Sophia in my arms, and his entire expression transformed. The dangerous Mafia boss disappeared, replaced by something raw and vulnerable. Sophia. He moved forward slowly, like approaching something precious and fragile, and stopped just close enough that I could smell his cologne. Expensive, woody, with notes of bergamot. Nothing like the smell of blood and rain from the alley. "May I?" He held out his hands, and I saw they were shaking slightly. I transferred Sophia to him carefully, watching as he cradled her against his chest with surprising gentleness. She looked so tiny in his arms, this small, innocent life held by a man who'd probably taken lives without hesitation. The contrast should have been disturbing, but instead, it was oddly beautiful. "She's grown," he murmured, touching her cheek with one finger. "Gotten heavier, healthier. She eats like she's training for something." The words came out before I could stop them, and I winced at how casual I sounded. This wasn't a play date. This was a Mafia boss holding his murdered brother's child, but Dante smiled, a real smile that transformed his face from handsome to absolutely breathtaking. Lorenzo always ate like that too, drove our mother crazy. The smile faded. She would have loved Sophia, would have fought wars to protect her. "I'm sorry about your brother." "Don't be sorry for Lorenzo." His voice went hard. "He made his choices. Bad choices that got him killed and put Sophia in danger. I loved him. But I can't forgive what he did." "What did he do?" "Valentino mentioned betrayal, but he stole from the family, sold information to the Calabresi, got greedy and stupid and paid the price." Dante looked down at Sophia, and pain flickered across his face. "But she shouldn't have to pay for his mistakes. No child should." He moved to the chair by the window and sat carefully, keeping Sophia against his chest. I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he held himself like any sudden movement might tear something open. He was still healing, still in pain, but he'd come anyway. "You should be resting," I said. "Recovering." "I've been resting for a week, going insane in a hospital bed while Valentino fed me updates about you and Sophia." Those dark eyes found mine again. "I needed to see for myself, to make sure you were both real, that I didn't imagine you in that alley. You didn't imagine me, though I still think you might have imagined I could handle this. You've handled it perfectly." He shifted slightly, and I saw him wince. "Valentino says you haven't complained once. Haven't asked for money or favors or tried to leverage the situation. Why would I? You saved Sophia. I struggled for words. I'm just helping." "You're doing more than helping, Emma. You've given up your life, your freedom, for a child you didn't know and a man you'd never met." He studied me with unnerving intensity. "Why? And don't tell me it's because I asked. People break promises to me every day." I thought about lying, about giving him some easy answer. But those eyes demanded truth, because when I looked at you both in that alley, I saw something worth saving, something good trying to survive in a bad situation. I swallowed hard. And because I know what it's like to be abandoned, to need someone and have everyone walk away. I couldn't do that to her, to you. The silence stretched between us, heavy with things unsaid. Sophia made a small sound, breaking the tension, and Dante looked down at her with such tenderness it made my chest ache. She's lucky to have you, he said quietly. We both are. What happens when this is over? When the threat is gone? That depends. He looked up at me. On what
I
want to go back to my life. My apartment, my job. Your apartment with the water damage and the broken lock? The job that pays minimum wage and works you 50 hours a week? He shook his head. You can't go back there, Emma. Even after the Calabrese threat is eliminated, you're connected to us now. To me. That connection doesn't just disappear. So what? I'm just supposed to stay here forever? In this beautiful prison? It's not a prison. But he said it without conviction. It's protection. It's the same thing. I moved to the window, looking out at the grounds that might as well have been surrounded by walls. I didn't ask for this life. For your protection. I just wanted to help a baby and a dying man. And now that dying man owes you everything. He stood carefully, still holding Sophia, and moved closer. I could feel the heat of him at my back, the presence that seemed to fill the entire room. I take my debts seriously, Emma. And this is a debt I can never fully repay. I don't want repayment. What do you want? The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? My old life back? Impossible. To feel safe? I wasn't sure I'd ever feel safe again. To understand the man standing behind me, whose protection felt like both sanctuary and cage. I want Sophia to be safe, I said finally. That's all that matters. She will be. I swear it. His voice was close, intimate. But you matter too, Emma. Your happiness. It matters to me. I turned to face him, and the intensity in his eyes nearly undid me. This close, I could see the fading bruises on his jaw, the shadows under his eyes that spoke of pain and sleepless nights. He'd been shot 3 times protecting Sophia, had nearly died, and here he was, standing in my borrowed bedroom, telling me I mattered. Why? The word came out as barely a whisper. Why do I matter to you? Because you're good. He said it like it was obvious, like goodness was the rarest commodity in his world. Because you kept your promise when anyone else would have run. Because when I look at you, I see something I thought didn't exist anymore. What's that? Hope. The word settled between us, fragile and dangerous. Sophia chose that moment to start fussing, breaking whatever spell had been weaving itself around us. Dante smiled down at her, then carefully transferred her back to my arms. I should go. Let you both rest. But he didn't move, didn't step back. Can I come back? Tomorrow? You don't need permission. This is your house. But you're my guest, and I won't intrude if you don't want me here. The proper answer was to say no, to maintain distance, to remember that this man was dangerous regardless of how he looked at me. But Sophia was already reaching for him, her tiny fingers grasping at air, and the longing on his face was too real to ignore. Yes, come back. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes, there and gone so quickly I might have imagined it. Tomorrow, then. And Emma, thank you for everything. He left, and I stood there holding Sophia, feeling like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. This was supposed to be temporary, a few days of protection until the threat was eliminated. But the way Dante had looked at me, the promise in his voice, suggested something far more permanent. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dante's face, in the alley, bleeding and desperate, in my room, holding Sophia with such tenderness, looking at me like I was something precious, dangerous thoughts for a woman who needed to remember she was just a convenient caretaker, nothing more. My phone buzzed around midnight, a text from Dee. Are you awake? I stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. Yes, can't sleep. Me either, pain or thoughts. Both. A pause, then. May I call you? Yes. The phone rang immediately, and his voice filled my ear, rough and intimate in the darkness. Tell me about yourself, Emma. The real you, not the version my investigators found. There's not much to tell. Small-town girl, moved to the city for college, dropped out when my mom died and my sister got sick. Been working ever since, trying to keep my head above water. That's the facts. I want the truth underneath. What do you dream about? What makes you laugh? What scares you besides mafia bosses and death threats? Despite everything, I smiled. Failure. Letting people down. Becoming my mother. Bitter and drunk and angry at the world. You could never be that. You have too much light in you. You don't know me well enough to say that. Don't I? His voice dropped lower. I've been watching you for weeks, Emma. I know you give money to the homeless man on 5th Street every Thursday. I know you cry during sad movies, but pretend you don't. I know you sing to Sophia when you think no one's listening. And your voice is beautiful. You've been watching me that closely? I had to know who would be caring for Sophia, but it became... He paused. It became more than that. You became more than that. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it through the phone. Dante. I can't. We can't. I know. You're under my protection. It would be inappropriate. Wrong. Another pause. But I can't stop thinking about you. About the way you looked at me in that alley. Like I was worth saving. Like Sophia was worth everything. She is worth everything. So are you. He said it with such conviction that tears burned behind my eyes. You're worth everything, Emma, and I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that to you. Why? I'm nobody. Just a waitress who happened to be in the wrong place. The right place, he corrected firmly. You were exactly where you needed to be. Where I needed you to be. This is crazy. You know that, right? I barely know you. You barely know me. Then let's change that. Let me come back tomorrow. Let me know you. The real you. I should have said no. Should have maintained boundaries. Remembered that this was temporary, that he was dangerous. That I was in over my head. Instead, I whispered, okay. His sharp intake of breath was audible. Okay. Good. Sleep now, Emma. Dream of something good. Dream of a future where Sophia is safe and you're happy and everything works out. Do you believe that's possible in your world? I'm starting to. The warmth in his voice wrapped around me like a physical thing. Good night, Emma. Sleep well. Good night, Dante. I hung up and lay in the darkness, listening to Sophia breathe, feeling the weight of Dante's attention like a brand. This was dangerous territory, far more dangerous than death threats and mafia wars, because those I could potentially survive. But falling for Dante Moretti, that might destroy me completely, and the terrifying part was, I wasn't sure I wanted to stop it from happening. Dante came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each visit lasted longer, the conversations growing deeper, the silences between us charged with something I was afraid to name. He'd arrive in the afternoon, when Sophia was most alert, and we'd fall into an easy rhythm. Him holding her while I prepared bottles, me watching them together while he told stories about his family, his childhood, the brother he'd loved despite everything. He never talked about the business, never mentioned the Calabrese family, or the threat that kept us hidden here. Those hours were sacred somehow, separate from the violence and danger that defined his world. In this house, with Sophia between us, he was just a man mourning his brother and falling in love with his niece. And maybe, just maybe with me too. 2 weeks into our strange domestic arrangement, everything shifted. I'd just put Sophia down for her afternoon nap when Dante arrived, earlier than usual. One look at his face told me something had changed. It's over, he said, standing in the doorway of my room. We found them. The ones who killed Lorenzo, who put the price on Sophia's head. He paused, choosing his words carefully. They're no longer a threat. Relief and fear warred in my chest. So Sophia's safe? Completely. The Calabrese family has agreed to a truce. Sophia is under family protection now, untouchable. He moved closer, and I saw something vulnerable in his expression. Which means you can leave, go back to your life. You've fulfilled your promise. Leave. Go back to my apartment, my job, my life of just barely surviving. The thought should have filled me with joy, with relief. Instead, it felt like someone had carved out a piece of my chest. When? My voice sounded hollow. Whenever you want. Today, tomorrow, I'll make sure you have everything you need. Money, references for a better job, a new apartment if you want. Anything. And Sophia? She'll stay with me. I'm her legal guardian now. Papers were processed yesterday. She'll want for nothing, have the best of everything. He swallowed hard. She'll miss you, though. We both will. The admission hung between us, heavy with meaning. I looked at Sophia, sleeping peacefully in her crib. The baby I'd cared for like she was my own. The baby I'd fallen in love with somewhere between midnight feedings and tiny smiles. I don't want to leave her, I whispered. I know I have to. I know this was always temporary, but My voice broke. I love her. I know you do. Dante was suddenly right there, his hand cupping my face with surprising gentleness. She loves you too. You're the only mother she's ever known. I'm not her mother. Aren't you? His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You've cared for her, protected her, given up everything for her. That's what mothers do, Emma. Biology doesn't matter. Then what am I supposed to do? Walk away and pretend these weeks never happened? No. He said it fiercely, both hands framing my face now. Stay. The word hit me like a thunderbolt. What? Stay with us. With Sophia. With me. His eyes searched mine, desperate and determined. I know it's insane. I know you barely know me, but these past 2 weeks, Emma, I've never felt like this. Never wanted someone to stay so badly it physically hurts. Dante, let me finish, please. He took a shaky breath. I can give you everything. A home. A real home, not a prison. Financial security. A chance to finish your degree if you want. To pursue whatever dreams you've had to put aside. And Sophia, you can be her mother. Not officially at first, but he stopped, seeming to struggle with his next words. Marry me. I actually laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. You're proposing? We've known each other for 2 weeks. I've known you longer than that. I've watched you, learned you, seen your heart. His grip tightened slightly. I know this is fast. I know it's crazy. But in my world, when you find something worth protecting, you don't hesitate. You claim it. And Emma, his voice dropped to something almost reverent. I want to claim you. I want to protect you. I want to wake up every morning knowing you're safe and mine. You want to own me. The words came out sharper than intended. No. He shook his head vehemently. I want to belong to you. There's a difference. You'd have complete freedom, complete autonomy. I'd never cage you, never control you. But I'd be yours, completely and irrevocably, if you'd let me. My heart was racing, my mind spinning. This was insane. Absolutely insane. I didn't marry men I barely knew. Didn't sign up for a life in the Mafia. I looked at Sophia, sleeping peacefully, and something in my chest cracked open. I'd already lost so much. My mother, my dreams, years of my life to just surviving. Could I really walk away from this? From her? From the man looking at me like I held his entire world in my hands? I need time, I whispered. To think, to take all the time you need. But I can see the fear in his eyes, the vulnerability. But Emma, please understand. If you leave, I won't chase you, won't pressure you. You'll have your freedom, your money, your fresh start. But I'll never stop wanting you, never stop wishing you'd stayed. He left then, and I sank onto the bed, my entire body shaking. Marriage. To a mafia boss. It was like something out of the romance novels I'd devoured in my rare free moments. Except this was real. The danger was real. The consequences were real, but so was the way he looked at me, the gentleness in his hands, the fierce protectiveness that extended to both Sophia and me. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, mechanically caring for Sophia while my mind raced in circles. By evening, I'd made lists of pros and cons, analyzed every angle, tried to be rational, but rationality had nothing to do with the way my heart raced when I heard his voice. The way I felt safe for the first time in years when he was near. The way Sophia lit up whenever he entered the room. Around 10 p.m., my phone buzzed. Dante. I'm outside, on the porch. I can't sleep without knowing. May I see you? Just for a moment? I should have said no. Should have taken the time I'd asked for. Instead, I wrapped Sophia in a blanket and carried her downstairs, finding Dante exactly where he said he'd be, sitting on the porch steps, looking out at the darkness. He turned when he heard the door, and the hope and fear in his expression made my decision for me. "Ask me again," I said softly. He stood immediately, moving toward us with careful steps. "Emma, ask me again, properly this time." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by something that looked like joy. He took Sophia from my arms, settling her against his shoulder, then reached for my hand with his free one. "Emma, I know I'm asking the impossible. I know you deserve better than a man who lives in shadows, who has blood on his hands, who can't promise you a normal life. But I can promise you this." He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. "I will protect you with my life. I will give you everything I have. I will honor you, cherish you, fight wars for you, and I will love you. God, I will love you, with everything I am. So please, Emma, marry me. Be Sophia's mother. Be mine." The tears were flowing freely now, and I didn't try to stop them. "Yes." His sharp intake of breath was audible. "Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. I'll stay. My voice broke. "I'll be yours if you'll be mine." He kissed me then, carefully because Sophia was between us, but with an intensity that promised everything his words had. It was a claiming and a surrender all at once. A seal on a promise that terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret this." "I'm already regretting it a little," I admitted, and felt his laugh rumble through his chest. "But I'm also sure it's right. Crazy, but right. Welcome to my world. Everything is crazy." He pulled back to look at me, and the love in his eyes was so raw it hurt. "But with you, it finally makes sense." The wedding happened fast. 3 weeks later, in a small church with only immediate family present, Valentino stood as Dante's best man, giving me a look that clearly said he thought his brother was insane but would support him anyway. My sister flew in, shocked and worried, but ultimately happy to see me smile for the first time in years. Sophia was there too, wearing a tiny white dress and gurgling happily through the ceremony. When the priest asked if anyone objected, I half expected someone to burst through the doors, a rival family, the police, someone from my old life come to talk sense into me. But there was only silence, and Dante's hand gripping mine like I might disappear, and the weight of vows that felt both sacred and terrifying. "I do," I said when the moment came, and meant it with my whole heart. "I do," Dante echoed, and the possession in his voice should have scared me. Instead, it felt like coming home. The kiss was different this time, deeper, more claiming, witnessed by people who mattered. When we pulled apart, I saw tears in Valentino's eyes, quickly blinked away. Saw my sister smiling despite her worry. Saw Sophia reaching for us both, wanting her family close. Our family. 6 months later, I stood in the nursery of our home, a real home, with rooms I'd decorated and furniture I'd chosen, watching Dante rock Sophia to sleep. She was bigger now, babbling constantly, trying to crawl, and she called him Papa with perfect clarity, reducing him to an emotional mess every single time. "She's almost asleep," he whispered, looking up at me with such love it still took my breath away. 5 more minutes. I moved closer, running my hand through his hair, and he leaned into the touch like he always did. This powerful, dangerous man who turned to putty under my fingers. We'd had hard days, certainly, moments where his world intruded, where I saw the violence he was capable of, where I questioned everything. But we'd also had this. Quiet moments in nurseries, family dinners where Valentino tried to teach Sophia Italian. Lazy Sunday mornings in bed where Dante mapped every inch of my skin like I was precious art. "I love you," I said, because I never got tired of saying it, never got tired of seeing his reaction. That flash of wonder, like he couldn't quite believe I was real. "I love you more." He stood carefully, laying Sophia in her crib with practiced ease. "Thank you." "For what?" "For staying. For choosing us. For being brave enough to say yes when any sane person would have run." He pulled me close, one hand sliding into my hair. "For being my wife, Sophia's mother, my everything." "Thank you for asking me to stay," I countered. "For seeing something worth saving in a scared waitress in an alley." I saw everything worth saving. He kissed me slowly, deeply, with the kind of passion that still made my knees weak. And I'm going to spend the rest of our lives proving it. Later, as we lay in bed with Sophia's baby monitor between us, I thought about the girl I'd been 6 months ago. Exhausted, broke, barely surviving, running through rain-soaked alleys after double shifts, wondering if life would ever be more than just getting by. I'd thought helping Dante and Sophia would be a brief detour, a strange story to tell someday. Instead, it had become my entire life, and I wouldn't change a single moment. "What are you thinking?" Dante's voice was sleepy, his arm heavy across my waist. That I'm glad I worked that night, glad I took the alley shortcut, glad I was exactly where I needed to be. Me too. He pulled me closer, his breath warm against my neck. Best mistake I ever made, getting shot in that alley. I laughed, elbowing him gently. Don't romanticize getting shot. Too late. It brought me you. He kissed my shoulder, my neck, the spot behind my ear that made me shiver. Worth every bullet. You're insane. Probably, but I'm yours. Yes, I agreed, turning in his arms to face him, seeing my future reflected in dark eyes that had once seemed so dangerous. You're mine, and I'm never letting go. Good, he murmured against my lips. Because neither am I. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm, dangerous and beautiful and full of shadows. But here, in this home we'd built, with Sophia sleeping peacefully down the hall, and Dante's heartbeat steady under my palm, I'd found something I'd never expected. Safety, love, a family worth fighting for, and as sleep finally pulled me under, wrapped in arms that had once held a dying man but now held me like I was his salvation, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice. I'd found him shot and protecting a baby, not knowing he was a mafia boss, and in saving him I'd saved myself.